Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. They're bringing in the witness. As soon as he arrives, we will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. I hope you had a good lunch. Okay. Council, you may continue, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gomez, this is hopefully the last session. I would like to ask you a few questions about where we left off before the break in relation to the torture of Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara. After that, I will address a few more issues in relation to your detention, and then we will discuss your release from prison, as well as anything else that may have happened post-release. And then we will end with just hearing from you about the impact this has had on you and your family, as well as your views as someone who went through this ordeal. Is that okay? So coming back to the period while you were in detention at Mile 2 prison, when Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara were tortured, you mentioned that an electric shock machine was involved. You mentioned that you heard shouting and cries. You also mentioned some individuals, such as Alaji Martin. I want to ask a few preliminary questions. Do you recall when this event occurred?
You're referring to dates, specific dates?
Or periods in relation to another incident that happened, just an idea of a time frame if you don't have a date.
Yeah, I think this happened immediately after they were brought in. In terms of time, that was immediately when the 45 days were over and Chongan and others were brought back. So within those days, these torture sessions happened, and then this crime. For me, I believe what I saw and ascribed to us being a torture shock machine, probably is what triggered the demise of Sadibu Haidara. The reason is that when we all knew Sadibu Haidara, but at some point, he became so swollen. I mean, you could see that something is really wrong. There was of course, what used to happen was when they were going out, when they normally go out, we were asked to go, even if we were on break, they would have to get us back into security wing number 4. And then when they pass, you will see that this is not normal Sadibu Haidara. You will see some swollenness, as if he was, out of size, sort of. And for me personally, I think it's because of the tortures. Maybe, maybe not, but that was my opinion.
I see you making a gesture, basically an enlarge, using your head. Which part of his body was swollen?
No, my point is, you will see the head as if it's bigger, his body as if it's bigger. What type of ailment causes that, I don't recall, I don't know now, but to me, I think it was as a result of all those, because when he was coming, he didn't come like that until his demise.
Can you describe to us what you saw as the electric shock machine? Are you able to describe it to us?
It's sort of a box with wires. That's the only thing that conjures to my mind that this is an electric shock machine. I've never seen it before.
And do you recall what time of the day they arrived? Was it during the day? Was it at night?
I can recall that this was during a day, because you could clearly, visibly see this. I could recall a day that it happened. But the torture session probably must have happened both any time that they wish. But I recall a day it happened when I saw this torture box.
Sorry, just to make sure I'm clear, did the torture of Sana Sabally and Sadibu Haidara occur once or more than once?
In my recollection, I think it happens more than once, a couple of times. More than once, at least, I can confirm that.
You mentioned seeing certain individuals. Do you recall how many people you saw coming in to torture them?
It must have been a group. I know, like I said, Martin, there were prison wardens. The rest of the people, memory is fading. I just faded on that. I can't recall who else was that.
Do you recall the names of the prison wardens that were involved?
Yes, this is one person I was trying to, and I believe is now, if I remember. He's an old, short, old man at the time. And at some point, I think I saw him in Bakau for over a long period of time, but I think his name was Ndao.
And are we talking about the first incident that you recall, or did you see the same people again during the second incident?
I think for me, this is one incident that I remember was this date when this box was held, and I know Ndao was there, Martin was there. Of course, because of time, I'll always assume that this particular prison warden would have been there any time that they come, because sometimes that's what they do. They'll assign certain things to set, like they did with Thomas Jaju in our case.
You said that the shouting and the cries, you could hear the shouting and the cries from where you were. Is that correct?
Yes, when the torture sessions happened, you could hear them crying and wailing and wailing.
I know this occurred a very long time ago, but do you recall how long this took?
What do you mean, how long? What took?
When
torture sessions.
Precisely, yeah. Sorry, the microphone.
I said I can't say specific time or so, but I know it took some time before they will leave.
Do you recall seeing Sadibu Haidara and Sana Sabally after the torture incidents?
When they are being escorted, you will see that they are going, and they are the only people who live in security wing number 1. And when the torture session finishes, you will know that they're taking people back to security wing number 1.
You've described the state that Sadibu Haidara was in following the torture. What about Sana Sabally? Did you notice anything about him, either physically or his demeanor, after those incidents?
No, nothing that I could say. Nothing.
During your time at the Mile 2 prison, were you ever charged?
No, neither process nor charge. It was just after September 6, the incident of September 6, that there was some, I think, NSS officer, and I thought I remember this name, Banyes Ba, who was part of them, who came to proffer charges on me that I had to write a statement. They're going to charge me for treason. So I didn't even bother to talk about the case, but I told them I don't mind. You could charge me on anything, but my witness will be Yaya Jammeh and Edward Singate. Because when I entered the Yundum barracks, when I was arrested, Yaya Jammeh and Edward Singate were there. So they will be my witness. After that, I didn't, they never came back for these bogus charges.
So you were never taken before a court, is that correct?
Yes. taken before a court of law.
So prior to the time that Sana Sabali and Sadibu Haidara were brought into Mile 2 prison, do you recall any kind of sound that was associated with Sana Sabali?
Did you say before they were brought to Mile 2?
Yes, indeed.
No, before they were brought to Mile 2, I wouldn't hear. And well, the only, you will say, it's only when they're going back to, normally during the day, they will crisscross Mile 2 going to Banjo for work. Apart from this, that's the only noise you hear. And of course, we gotten so used to it that I remember Sam Sar used to refer it as Nyungadem Yaha. It's about Nyunga Ligei. So he put a pun on it to say Nyungadem Yaha, Nyungadem Yahi. And that's the only time you hear these sirens and sounds.
Did you say the sirens, right?
Yes.
So you told us that the NIA the NSS tried to take a statement from you, and you told them that your witnesses would have to be Yaya Jammeh and Edward Sinyate. Was a statement ever taken from you at any point in time during your detention?
Well, yes, they were trying to take what happened here, and of course it's the same explanation I gave when I came, what happened, what we did. And then they were trying to probably conjure this as something that they could whip up and bring issue of treason. Like I said, I didn't even want to argue the issue of treason, but I told them that I don't mind. My witnesses will have to be Edward and Yaya Jammeh, because I know there is nothing that I've done that warranted treason. So that is where it ended. Excuse me.
So did you ever sign a statement at all?
I can't recall signing anything at all. I don't think I've signed anything. Probably it was within this period of taking notes and going and coming.
So during the 27 months that you were at Mile 2 prison, you mentioned a Thomas Jaju. Who were the prison wardens that were responsible for the wing where you were? Do you recall?
Yes, I think Thomas was one of them. David Colley. There was Sergeant Bojang. These people came to mind because they were assigned to us, but of course you could see it takes a dimension already. It's David Colley, Thomas Jaju, it's Sergeant Bojang. These are all Jolas, and I'm not saying this word lightly. I respect Jolas. I know they are hardworking people. They are dedicated people. They are honest people. But this time, these people, we notice, have taken this to another level, as if they are trying to show that, yes, they are now in power, and they could do this or they could do that. For instance, this Sergeant Bojang, of course you will see he's trying to do his job, but he will take it to that extreme, in which even when we have to have food brought in by our families, he will try to see whether this could come, whether that cannot come, whether you are allowed food, you are not allowed food. That excessive, I am following the law thing, you will always say it. For David Colley, he will not physically get involved in most of these things, but you will see that pride, of arrogance, that aloofness that he will come, walk in, walk back. These things are indescribable. But there are situations that you could feel what it is interpreting, what it means. The Thomas Jajus, we at some point believe he was even taking his instructions directly from the junta. It's about, keeping us apart, doing this, and then reporting back to the junta all the time.
Did he do anything in particular that you recall? I'm trying to drive at whether they treated you humanely during your time in prison.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't say they extended torture to us also, but the mistreatment will be these forms, imperceptible, intangibles at some point, but you will understand that they're taking it to another level where ordinary wardens may not want to, get to.
Were you ever treated in a cruel manner by any of these wardens?
Well, one of them will be Sergeant Bojang, where, in fact, I think for a long time, of course, if that makes sense at all, I just don't want to see him at all. He understands that too. I don't want to have anything to do with him at all. There were occasions when food were brought from my home to me, and this was denied me to the extent that it was either returned or I have to give it away to other people.
You told us earlier that when you arrived, you were placed in Security Wing number 4. Yes. During the 27 months that you were in Mile 2, did you remain in Security Wing number 4?
No, I didn't. And there was a period when, just out of a sudden, one morning, they came and asked me to pick up my blankets, and then I was transferred to Security Wing number 1. Until I left, I didn't know what happened. But to me, that was very cruel, that was very painful. The simple reason was that I was being transferred now to Security Wing number 1, where Sana Sabali was, and the other detainees. Now, this is painful to me because I have already become used to my detention colleagues. I feel I have had a safe space, so to call, within Security Wing number 4. And then I am now whisked away from this safe space to one where I don't know, to mingle with somebody who I associate my predicament with. To me, that is a form of torture to me. Probably they fail to realize that, but it was. It was later that I was informed, I think by some of the inmates, that the reason why I was transferred was that they thought I was organizing a rebellion within the prisons because they've seen me every time diligently taking the other detainees on exercises, either running along the yard within the confines of the security wings, or even inside Security Wing number 4, where we do calisthenics exercises.
You said that you were moved to Security Wing is it number 1 or number 2?
I think that is Security Wing number 1. I think in my statement I reflected it as number 2, but I think that is called number 1 because I was referring that to number 2 and where we were as 4.
You said that when you were taken there, you were made to share that space with people that you associated with your predicament. Who are you referring to? Which people?
I was referring to Sanasabali in particular, and because it was him and some of his entourage who were there, like that Private Njai was also there, and he was part of the security details of Sanasabali at the time. And this is one cell that I think is one of is the worst wing. It is damp. It is not properly ventilated because I can't recall if the cells the cell I was had any window apart from the door, and it was in this condition. And I found that very, very and that's where I spent the rest of my time until I was released. I find that even this detachment from the group that I was used to was very painful for me.
So you were detached from a space that you became accustomed to as a safe space, essentially, and then you were moved, not only that, but you were also moved to a part of the wing that had worse conditions than the one you were accustomed to before. Is that correct?
That's my point, because it also means that I will now be no longer subjected to the privileges that those my colleagues are in security wing number 4 had. Even those close privilege that I used to enjoy, having to have Chongan either in my cell or in his cell to play or chess or so, because this is all part of that safe security zone that I'm referring to.
So essentially, at some point after you'd spent months in Mile 2, your situation changed so dramatically that it seemed like you were starting again. Is that correct?
This is precisely, and that to me, that is what it actually reminded me. It took me back to this episode of that first week in detention. And like I said, it was really painful for me. One, you don't know why you were singled out for isolation. Number two, from where you were detached and taken to this new unfriendly environment, so to speak.
So you were in prison for about 27 months. Can you tell us a bit about your release? What led to your release? Microphone, sorry.
Sorry. For me, I guess one, God came to answer my prayers that it is now time for me to go. But also I think this is October now, October 1996. We are already into democratization. It was just a matter of time that everybody will be released, and or you could now subject this government to legal action. That also, I believe, contributed. So I just was there one morning, and I was asked to pack my stuff and follow them to the headquarters, the prison headquarters.
When you arrived at the prison headquarters, did you meet anyone there?
Yes, that's where the processing started. And when we got there, the army commander was there, Babu Karjata. And you see, all this period, these 27 months, one of the silent protests I was doing, I had grown my beard for all this period, 27 months, and I used to cut my hair, shave. Every week they will allow that, but I have never shaved my beard. So you can imagine it grown very well, and I was subjected to that indignity that, as a condition before I leave, I have to cut it off, and probably at the time it was, maybe for him, it was not seen that way. But I don't think anybody should subject anybody to do anything like that. Of course, for me, it would have been a testament, at least to my family, that this is how we were. But then I was asked that before you leave, before you can live here, you must have to cut your beard, which I had to do. And then I was allowed to go.
Just to clarify, who asked you to cut your beard before, as a condition of your release?
Colonel Jata, please.
And for you, what did it mean having a beard at that time? What was the meaning or the purpose behind it?
For me, like I said, to me it was more of a protest, an army officer in the Gambia National Army. Nobody will grow beards because that's not part of how you will dress. And I know it will mean something to them. It will be something that they will always see. Growing that beard all that long as an army officer, it will tell something that this is not where we should be, this is not how we should have been kept, this is not how long we should have been kept here at all. And to me, that was one form of protest I will do, like that I've said all throughout. And that was what I did throughout the 27 months.
So after 27 months, you've now been released and you're allowed to go home. Can you tell us about that process of adjusting back to normal life, essentially?
Well, it can be imagined. It was a difficult period when you get back home. Adjusting become a bit too much. I remember I could no longer
Please take your time, Mr. Gomez.
For a week, I could not sleep. For a week or more, I could not even sleep on my bed. At night, I have to sleep on the floor because I just couldn't anymore. So, and it took me time. And even up to today, when I sleep on my bed, it's as if I am still sleeping on a plank. It's just I'll still sleep one side of the bed, and I will. Maybe it's not related, but it's just one side of the bed I'll feel comfortable to sleep with, and I will lie straight, just like I used to do at mile 2.
What about when it came to noise, for instance? How did you react to being in the new environment outside of prison?
I think up till today, I don't want to say it's noise phobia. I don't think there's anything like that, but I just don't like to hear this siren, because for me it reminds me of the period. Of course, above all, I believe it's an abuse of this issue of siren, because I know in the First Republic this was not the situation. I think we were carried over, and it's a misrepresentation of what should happen. During the transition, that is when everybody gotten into this situation. But for me, it has an added edge, because it keeps reminding me of that period all the time.
Mr. Gomez, you've given us a very detailed account of allegations of human rights violations that you endured as well as others, at least over a period of 27 months, from arbitrary arrest, detention, torture, as well as due process rights violations. So I just want to know from you what impact this has had, not just on you, but also your family.
Well, for me, I mean, it will become difficult, but I know the impact it may have on my family, how I started relating to my family, to the extent that not just even siren, the issue of noise, I'm averse to loud noise everywhere or anywhere at any time. Because there was no professional evaluation, I don't know if I had impacted my family in any other way, or just duration, what impact it had on my family for that matter. But this reintegration became a real issue, a real issue.
Can you tell us a bit about your life after release in relation to your career, as well as any other events that may have happened after your release?
I think 3 days after I was released, 3 NIA officers came to my home in Bakau. I was right there with my mom in the morning, taking breakfast, and led by Ngor Seka. That I think this was the event when the Farafenni attack happened, that they were asked to come and take me in because they were told that I was leading the Farafenni attack. I tried to reason with them that if you are told that there's a Farafenni attack and I am leading it in Farafenni, I mean, if you find me here, you should quietly just say, yes, sir, we just came to see you, and then when you go back and report. But no, I have to be taken to the NIA headquarters. Of course, I was not locked up in a cell, but I was kept there throughout the day. Of course, again, heightened that anguish to my family, that pain and tribute and you know, anguish to my family again. And it was only in the evening that I was released after they realized that this was not the case. And I believe that I was told that they were told that one Kejau Ture told them that he recognized me. I was leading the attack in Farafenni, and that was why I had to be subjected to this. Now, after this period, it was October, and then, of course, within this period, I got my letter that I was retired from the army, which was 26 October. That effectively I was retired from the army. But then around January, February 1997, they started to court me through the army, Babu Karjata, that they will want me to go to the National Youth Service Scheme as counterpart administrator to the Nigerians who were there. And I think this was a headhunting through Amina Fal Sonko that this happened. I started work at the National Youth Service Scheme as counterpart administrator to the Nigerians, February 1997. I was there till 1999 as administrator, because after 1997, 98, the Nigerians had to go. that was the head of the team, and as counterpart administrator, I assumed the function of administrator of the National Youth Service Scheme. And to me, it was a seamless, I don't want to say transition, but job, because part of my work in the Army has always been training and development, and I came to the National Youth Service Scheme doing the same. I did my best. Again, I saw it as service to my country, and developing young people became my calling in life up till today. From here, of course, in 2001, the Babu Karjata again, and this is the credit I will give him, because he has always been there. He believes in me, I know, in my professionalism, in my training. And in 2001, 2001, they asked me if I would take up an assignment for them to go as a military observer this time in Ethiopia, Eritrea. And well, of course, my condition was that I had already sworn to myself and my family that I'm not going to put on uniform under this government any longer. I will never put on uniform again. But I came to understand that I don't need to. It is this uniform that I will put on will only be put on at when I'm at service. Of course, when I went here, because that was the message that was given to us when we were being sent off as ambassadors to the country, and I thought I did my best. I became the team leader, which was a rare feat, because I don't think the Army, all those who had gone on observer mission, I may stand to be corrected, had even reached that level as a team leader. I had been also the sector welfare officer at the mission, and gradually, ultimately before my return, I was elevated to the position of senior operations officer, which meant that I was responsible for all intelligence and information regarding the observer mission in Ethiopia, Eritrea on the observer force, and meaning that every day I'll have to be briefing the force commanders, which was a good thing, because on the other side too, on the forces side, you have a observer side and a force side. The force side, the Gambian contingent too, which was pleasing to me. We had a Gambian officer who was also doing that. It meant on both the missions, you have two sons of the soil standing every day in front of the forces to deliver such briefing to the entire force command. I think that was an achievement. Of course, when I returned, I had an opportunity to go and study through NYSS, development studies in the UK. But then when I reached, I also applied for university, and I was able to get that, secure that, which I paid for myself by taking odd jobs and then paying for my university degree to do a master's degree. And then despite that, I still thought I don't want to remain in UK. I want to come back to my country. I also know that after detention, of course, I would have been the most eligible asylum seeker. But I had always thought this is where my calling is. I don't want to leave. I wanted to stay and serve my country. I could have done that immediately I was released. I didn't do that. I chose to stay. I could have also, when I went to study, continue staying. I didn't. I wanted to come back because I know I can contribute to the progress of this country. And that is what I did. When I came, I got back to the National Youth Service Scheme. Even though I was I was the administrator, then the assistant. When I came, I have to be subjugated to work under somebody else who was my junior. I work under him. Then another assignment was given to me. There was this National Enterprise Development Initiative that was started in 2004, but they couldn't roll it out. I came, I implemented it across the country. The National Youth Service Scheme started the first apprenticeship training program in the country. I came, I recrafted it, and I also operationalized it across the country. It was from here, working on the Navy, that I also got a job at GAM Jobs. GAM Jobs is a UNDP job for youth and women. And this happened around May, June. After June was when I was now appointed as Minister of Youth and Sports. Oh yes, I had a choice. I could have said, no, I would not serve. But then I thought this was also this career trajectory that I had, that having served young people throughout my career, my civil career in this country, this is now the pinnacle. That at this place, I could now, apart from activities and operations, I now have the opportunity to serve these young people at policy and strategic level, which I took. And having done that, I was leaving again, just like I have done throughout these periods. I was leaving a job that was paying me $33,000 at the time, which was way more than what I was receiving at NYSS, which was $6,000, $7,000. And I had to leave that to take this assignment as Minister of Youth and Sport, being paid $17,000 at the time as my salary. For me, it was my call to duty, and I had to do it. And I was doing it for this country. I ended up as Minister of Interior until I was relieved of my duties as Minister of Interior. And that too came about primarily, which I was told also later by one of my former colleagues, that it was the reason because I had visited the prisons as a Minister of Interior. And one of the things I found was that the abject and dire prison situation at the time. This was a place where the prison, general prison, you have people who were sleeping on the planks, but then the planks you will have to open, somebody will go inside. Some people are sleeping on the corridors. In the toilet, some people are sleeping. Some people will sit and sleep. Still some people will stand, just because of overcrowdedness of the prisons. Some people will stand and wait for these people to do their time in sleeping, and then they have their turn to sleep. So for me, this was too much, because I have just started my tour of facilities of the Ministry of Interior. So I took it upon myself that I'll have to curtail that, and immediately started writing a report on the conditions that I've seen. Of course, when I went to, I had an opportunity to discuss it with the then president. Even started talking about those prisoners that were there for 30 years. I just didn't see the sense in keeping these type of prisoners in prison when they have served over 30 years in prison. I mean, what for? Some people are almost terminal ill. Some people, I mean, this overcrowdedness is unnecessary. So I thought we should be able to do something. But before long, I had to be relieved of my service. And I know this may be a marathon, but immediately too, I was relieved of my service. The following day, the NIA again came to my house. I had already submitted the diplomatic passport I had, and then they came to say no. He was asked to come and take my green passport, which is my personal passport, and my ID card. All my traveling documents were taken away from me. I protested, but because he's a junior officer, I conceded, I gave it to him, but I called the NIA director, Numu Kuna, the late Numu, I think it's called Numo, and I told him, what he told me was, well, you understand, sir, that these things are happening all the time. When officers, ministers are relieved, this is what happened. I called my other colleagues, I asked, I know it is not the case, because I know there are other officers who had their travel documents. But then, from then, 2012, until 2016, all my travel documents were confiscated. And it was such a painful thing because here you are, your relief of service, you still believe in yourself and your ability that you could do something for yourself. You had all these international appointments that could come your way, and all your travel documents are taken away from you. Even to go to a financial institution to do transaction, you couldn't. It was only when I started to talk with some immigration officer who I pleaded to make my driver's license. Otherwise, I would not have gotten any paper at all. So it took me over 4 years before my papers were returned. And after writing 3 times to the president that my papers must be released to me.
During that 4-year period, when you didn't have your own personal passport, where was your family during that time?
What happened was when I went on studies for my master's degree, I went with my wife. My wife stayed back. That's where my main family is. My wife and 2 kids are there. I am here with 2 of my kids. And during this period, of course, I was here. My family is there. Of course, even after the relief of my service as a minister, you could not travel to go and see them at all, and it has to take me until 2016 to be able to do that.
You mentioned earlier that you were retired from the Army. Do you recall which year this occurred?
This was when I was relieved. I was released. I was given a letter dated 26 October that effective that date I was retired from the Army, 26 October.
And which year was that?
1996.
So, Mr. Gomez, I've come to the end of my questioning. I'll just ask you one last question. You've narrated to us what happened to you over the period of 27 months as well as subsequently. And you mentioned a number of individuals who were involved in violating your rights, essentially, so to speak. What are some of your views as a person who's been victimized? What are your views in relation to the victimization that you endured and what you expect, essentially?
Well, first, foremost, I will quickly add this also. Even during the impasse, soldiers, security people had to come and arrest me. For what reason, I don't know, but luck was on my side. I read the situation. I got tidbits here and there. And luckily for me, a day before they came to visit me to pick me up, I was able to move out of my house, and they couldn't arrest me. This was how I escaped. Meaning that even during the impasse, I was considered that I will be a threat to them, and it is best for them to have me to come and arrest me or not. But the issues of violations, I would have thought that this should never have happened at all. We are a country of civilized people. We are a country of values, a country of norms. Until 1994, this is what I thought. But then, and I'm talking about the build-up to all these things, why these things could happen. First, the failures in the security, but also, and critical in my opinion, this readiness with Gambian people to subjugate themselves to somebody who, prior to 1994, nobody knew about, that just overnight, there are all these ululations and singing and praising and you know, titles giving, as if we don't believe anything anymore as human beings, as people. Even during this tenure of stay in prisons, there has never been a day when religious leaders came to visit us. And I'm saying this with the exception of the Christian faith. They had been there numerous occasions. They will talk to you, and they have no exceptions. You're Muslim or you're Christian, it didn't matter to them. And that meant a lot to all of us at that time. Not only will they do that, they will bring books to you. And of course, I know Chongan mentioned this issue of books. Books is all you have when you are in detentions like that. I think we need to revisit these things. I am saying this because if you see all these violations are happening, it is not in a vacuum. It is because we are human beings, we are Gambian people who don't value these things very much. It should have been all of us who should be able to stand up and say this is not supposed to be, this is not correct, and we address this situation in one form or the other. Wherever there is the collective mass, they will have a will and they will have a purpose. And this could have been done. This could have been done. But we lost this right at the very beginning, when everybody, all we saw was change, 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 irrespective of who was singing this change issue. And I thought that brought us to where we are. We were sacrificed a long time ago. At some point, we did not even exist. We were not considered. We were always referred to as Nyonyu Affairs Security La. No, we are human beings first. We are out there to serve our countries. These violations happen because we permitted them to happen.
Mr. Gomez, thank you very much for answering my questions. I have concluded. I will cede the floor to the commissioners to ask further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez, for a very articulate and lucid presentation, and for your assistance to us in our task to create an impartial history or historical record of violations and abuses of human rights. You personify the victims who really suffered, and in your own case, the entire period that the Assembly, the National Assembly, asked us to look at, July 1994 to the impasse reference that you just made. 22 years of suffering, violations of your rights is extraordinary. But thank you so much for assisting us. With that, I'll turn to the commissioners and see if anyone has got any questions to ask. But thank you enormously. Anna, please. Commissioner Jones, sorry.
Commissioner Jones, thank you very much, Mr. Gomez. It's just a quick question regarding the time at Mile 2 when you were moved from Security Wing 4 to Security Wing 1, when you were in the same security wing with Sabali and Haidara. Did you get the chance to talk to them at all? Well, did they explain to you, for instance, the reason for them being involved in the coup or any regrets that they had? So I just wanted to know whether you had the opportunity to talk to them at all.
Yes, first, it was Sanda Sabali and some other ranks, some others. By the time Haidara passed away. And I just didn't want to engage Sabali in any form of that type of discussion at all. I know throughout the period I stayed there, it was because of the confinement of the space, but I had limited myself to that type of discussion. I don't think it would have gone anywhere. I don't think, I just was trying to avoid a situation where it might aggravate to something else. So I didn't have that type of rapport with him at all at that period. It was just because we were together. There were some things that you cannot avoid doing that we did as civilized people. But apart from that, we didn't have those type of conversations.
Thank you very much. I'm Deputy Chairperson. Let me have the floor, please.
Commissioner Sose, this is one small question in relation to your retirement. Were you paid your retirement benefits?
Yes, I was paid my, what's it called, gratuities or whatever, those benefits I was paid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr.
Imam si dafa am ñaari laajte yi ma jaaxal loolu laa bëggoon ma laaj ko Sirif mu leeralal ma ko yaakaar naa am na ay kaaraange yu jógee woon Nigeria de garde Jawara ñoom time bi coup d'état bi am ñoom ci lañ leen nekkoon ak fan lañ nekkoon ba ñoom defuñ ci dara ñaareel bi mooy ñoom Yaaya Jammeh waxoon nañ ne ñoom amuñu woon garaat amuñu ay maqaama yu mag fan lañu amee ay bagages yiñ doon yiñ ay fetel yiñ amee woon ba ñu bëgg a def coup d'état te yàlla defoon na ne yaa amee caabi ji xaw ma nag heure biñ la jàppee dugal la ci seel bi lañ nangu caabi bi amee ko wala fuñ nekkoon foofu dañ fa amoon njiit ku leen jógoon ay nganaay ñaari mbir yi moom bëgg naa nga leeral ko commission bi wala nga leeral ma ko waaw.
Do you want me to answer in English and you interpret, or?
Please go ahead. You can reply in English. I believe you understood.
Yes, yes, I understood the. I am Gomez, but I am well off. I had the question, and the first question about Nigerian guards to President Jawara, I don't know about. But if you're referring to the army training team that came to command and train the army, when this coup happened, they were at their residences because they are foreign nationals, and they thought they had no business in a civil strife that was happening at the time. That notwithstanding, I thought there must have been some background communication between the army commander and Jawara at the time. But that I cannot confirm. I know that they were at their residences at the time. The second question about arms and ammunition. Yes, when I was arrested and the keys were with me, that was the time they took the keys, opened the armory, and took the weapons and did the coup d'etat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez. Commissioner Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Commissioner Carr, I have a question. I want to know what your personal opinion is on self-preservation as a soldier. Should it be prioritized over the security of the country? Should the soldier prioritize self-preservation over national security?
Well, Commissioner Carr, I don't think as a soldier serving his country in uniform has anything to do with issues of self-preservation. Serving as a security officer is a noble and a disciplined tradition and an institution. It is why you were commissioned. It is why you have foregone all civil matters and assumed this responsibility for your country. That comes with the requisite price that you have to pay if it comes to it. It is never your decision to ponder on issues of whether I should do or I should not do. That is not service. That is not a military tradition at all. So there is no issue about self-preservation. It is about standing up and defending your country. That is what any person in uniform is expected to do, is required to do. It is why he is putting on that uniform.
Thank you very much. I mean, you asking for the floor? Oh, sorry. If there are no further questions, I want to thank you again very much, Emma, for agreeing to come and testify before the Commission. It's our, we are grateful for your service as well. And Council, I believe the next hearing would be on Monday. If that is it, if you can confirm that, then we would adjourn the meeting until Monday for the next public hearing.
That is very well the case, Mr. Chairman. That is the case.
Thank you very much indeed. If there are no further questions, the meeting is adjourned until Monday, 10 o'clock. Have a nice weekend. Thank you all. Thank you.